also?
Yeah, it just keeps repeating me for some reason.
That was weird.
It's so weird.
It does.
Is that okay?
Now it's fine. I don't think it repeats you anymore.
All right, perfect. I was like, what's going on here? It's a little unusual. How you guys doing?
Good.
We
Awesome.
made it. It's okay.
Let's get started.
Sure.
Hi, everyone who's joining, and welcome to Lumen's webinar, Busting Myths About Weight Loss and Metabolism. I'm Jackie, Lumen's Influencer Marketing Manager. For those of you who don't know us yet, Lumen is the first at-home device to track your metabolism. Through a single breath, Lumen is able to tell you whether you're burning fat or carbs and adjust your nutrition to fit for what your body needs in real time. So this is a Lumen. For the next 30 minutes, we'll be talking about myths surrounding weight loss and metabolism and sharing some tips more about that in just a second. We're so lucky to be joined by these two amazing guests, Dawn and Ulrike. Dawn has been a professional in the health and fitness world for over 20 years. Dawn has like the most amazing job. He gets to train superheroes like Ryan Reynolds, Sebastian, Hugh, Jackman, as well as actresses like Blake Lively and Anne Hathaway. Dawn also hosts monthly fitness challenges with hundreds or thousands of challengers each month and a podcast on sport, fitness, and health. He's also been tapped as a fitness expert in publications like Muscle Fitness, Men's Health, Men's Fitness, and many others. We're also joined by our very own Ulrike. She's the Lumen's head of nutrition. She has a bachelor's and master's degree in nutrition sciences and is registered as a dietitian. And she has been featured in the Telegraph Daily Express as a nutrition expert. So Dawn and Ulrike will be discussing some of the misconceptions about weight loss, metabolism, as well as sharing some of their tips for eating healthy during the holidays. Throughout, if you have any questions, feel free to add them in our chat, and we'll have some time to answer them at the end. Make sure to stick around. Also, we'll be offering some special discounts for Lumen subscription and for Dawn's challenge after. But for now, I'll just let them take over.
Great. Thank you so much, Jackie. Dawn, it's really a pleasure being here with you. I see
Ulrike, thank you.
I see you have your barn set up. It looks really amazing.
Yes, it's been great. It was a project that I put into play probably last year, right towards the end of the pandemic. And we built this beautiful 2,000 square foot multi-floor gym recovery area. It's so much fun. And maybe if we have some time, we'll take you guys for a tour later on.
I would love to. It looks amazing, really.
Thank you.
Great. Okay, so today, as Jackie introduced already, we're going to talk about some common myths around the field of diet and nutrition. And the first thing that I like to talk about is the myth that eating fat will make you gain weight, or if you want to lose weight, you have to eat less fat. So yeah, while it is definitely true that fat actually is the most energy dense macronutrient compared to carbs and protein, but including some fat in the diet actually has some benefits. So like, for instance, including fat in your meals can help you to feel more satiated, and it is more satisfying to the meal overall to include some fat in the meal itself. So this then can actually help to eat less throughout the day and help to reduce your overall caloric intake throughout the day. John, Don, what is your stand on that?
Oh, 100%. I mean, I agree with you 100% on that. I mean, I think fat's always had this, it's almost like this bad three-letter word that people are throwing around. It's given me so much when it comes down to my energy levels. And most importantly, I feel like feeling satiated because I've worked with, I can't tell you how many people. I've probably done over 40,000 1-hour sessions in my life. And every single time I prepped someone for a movie or even a specific sport, they would battle cravings in the evening if their fat was too low. Energy levels would be thrown off if it's too low. And Ulrike, I've never really seen anyone gain body fat with eating too much of the right stuff. It's really difficult to put on body fat when you're overeating a lot of like very healthy foods. It reminds me of Michael Phelps, one of the greatest swimmers of all time. And they were talking to him about why was he consuming 12,000 calories by eating poor nutrition. He says, because I can't keep my calories up, eating healthy calories. So that was a fun story. But yeah, there's a big misconception on the negativity with fat, because we have our good and bad fats, of course.
That's a good point. And I think it's really important to point here out also that there are huge differences in the quality of fat, actually. So whether we are including healthy fats in our diet from whole foods, unprocessed sources, versus processed fats that are actually, they can be harmful to our health. For instance, we look at trans fats. So these are commercially processed fats in a way to make the fat more stable in a food. So these fats, for sure, we know that they are not beneficial for health, and we should definitely reduce the intake of these fats. But like foods where these fats are found in are just processed foods, basically, like cookies, cakes, frozen pizza, or fried foods, basically. So eliminating these kind of foods from our diet is definitely a good idea. But incorporating like those healthy fats that are beneficial for health, for instance, the unsaturated fatty acids like omega-3 fatty acids from linen seeds, nuts, or oily fish. These are fats that are really beneficial for our health. And incorporating these kind of fats into our diet or into our meals, actually a very healthy thing to do. And I do want to point out one thing when it comes to fat, because I said in the beginning, definitely it is the most energy dense macronutrient. So overall, of course, we still have to watch our overall energy balance if someone especially looking for weight loss. But yeah, due to those benefits that fat has by incorporating it into our diets, feeling more satiated, it can actually help to eat less. And by that, it can help with weight loss also. Also, another point to add, there is the impact that fat has on insulin levels. So fat actually doesn't increase insulin levels. So combining then fat with some protein in a meal can actually help to decrease and slow down the release of insulin, and which can actually be a good thing in terms of like managing blood glucose levels, or potentially decreasing on the long run the risk for insulin resistance. So therefore, yeah, it's really definitely nothing to be afraid of, but I want to point out that the right fat is definitely what makes the difference here. Would you agree?
100%. Yeah, 100%. I mean, I just prepped for the cover of Muscle and Fitness. It just launched. It was, I think it was October's issue. And I still did that through consuming, olive oil or MCT oil or avocado oil, or still having, things like macadamia nuts or almonds. And I felt phenomenal. I mean, the night after, the day of my shoot that night, I remember having a hockey game, an indoor hockey game, going off and playing, and just feeling like my energy level was still extremely high. I think a misconception too is that we always want like carbohydrates for the workout. And I'll find that sometimes my carbohydrate stores are high, and I will wake up the next day, and if I have an activity, I will start with a protein, fat, vegetable breakfast. And I find that it even helps me with brain function and clarity and public speaking. Every time I've gone on the stage to public speak and I've had higher levels of carbs, I felt like it's just, for me, it's not a good place to put my carbs. And I actually will prefer to have a higher level of fat before I'm on stage. Yeah. It works better for me.
I think overall, what is also important to point out when it comes to diet or weight loss, that it's usually, or it is not one single nutrient that determines whether our diet is good or bad. It's actually a combination of a lot of different choices we do in our diets, and a lot of different like lifestyle choices we take throughout the day. So yeah, a healthy diet is definitely a combination of choosing the right fats, incorporating some fats into our diet. And this can also vary from person to person a little bit. What is a good amount, what they're functioning very well on. Some people strive a bit better on a very high fat diet. Some people strive a bit better on a little bit lower fatted diet. So it is a bit a personal thing, but choosing the right fats is definitely what matters. Eating less refined carbohydrates, focusing more on vegetables, exercising regularly, and being aware of our natural hunger and fullness cues. I think that's really what it comes down to when we speak about a healthy diet and nutrition and a healthy lifestyle overall. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, listen, fat, a healthy lifestyle, balancing between carbs and fats. I mean, this is something that I believe that we all need to be able to do, and we need to be able to adapt to. And that's why I love the flexibility score with Lumen, because I've seen bodybuilders, I've seen fitness professionals, I've seen just everyday people come in and they get their flexibility score, and it just shows that they're not as efficient in one category. And I'm not going to be the person to say I hate the scale, because, you know, I find that there is some use sometimes, but I would prefer people just focus on that flexibility score and try and follow the advice that Lumen gives, and allow you, that individual, to be able to start to consume fats at specific, you know, more or less on specific days, or carbs more or less on specific days. And then I feel like paying attention to those principles of allowing your metabolism to become more flexible is going to, in time, allow your body to become more efficient at burning both. And I've always been very good at burning carbohydrates, because my carbs have been very, very high. But I think because of that aesthetic portion of it, I'd keep the fats a little bit lower. When I say lower, I mean 90 grams a day. Now Lumen has me up as high as 180 grams during a day. And just to see the benefit from my energy level, my recovery, my leanness, was something that I would never have attempted to do, even being a professional in this industry, without the advice and support of Lumen, because it was telling me, do this to get this number up. And then I allowed myself to trust that process. So, you know, I not to run on about this, but when I meet a client and they say, I'm not good at burning fats, I'm not good at burning carbs, I can't have carbohydrates. Well, maybe right now you can. But there's no reason why we can't get our metabolism more efficient at doing so. And I like to go, like when I went on my honeymoon to Italy, I went and I lived on a diet of gelato, pizza, and red wine for an entire week. But when I came back, I lost 7 pounds. And it was because I felt like that I was more efficient at burning carbohydrates, and that when my meal frequency dropped for a short period of time, I didn't retain all this water, I didn't blow up, and then I was able to get back onto my normal nutrition plan. And within days, I felt like mentally I was back to where I needed to be at. So I just believe it's getting away from those misconceptions of, you know, trying to stay away and avoiding those things, and allowing our body to adapt and adjust to what are our two energy sources, fats and carbs.
Absolutely, I totally agree. It's definitely like making those, all about making those balanced choices, and in a way also being connected to what our body needs, our natural hunger and fullness cues. When we connect to those, it will be much easier to maintain a healthy weight. Great. Next thing I like to discuss and chat with you about are like detox diets. Detox diets, they claim to promote health and help to lose weight. So first of all, what are detox diets? So detox diets are usually very restrictive diets, and they're very restrictive for a short period of time. So an example could be, for instance, a juice cleanse, very extreme styles of fasting, consuming some herbal supplements, while reducing the overall caloric intake significantly. And I want to like quickly speak about the word toxins, because if we use this phrase and look at it from a scientific medical perspective, what are toxins actually? So toxins are is a medical word that relates to drugs or alcohol. Whether in the commercial world, the word toxin is used, something that is used very frequently and is not very well defined. So when we speak about toxins in our body actually has the ability to eliminate any toxins by itself. And there's no scientific evidence that we actually need a diet to detox our bodies, because our body has organs to detox anything if necessary. So these are like kidneys, liver, the digestive system, and even the skin helps with detoxing our body. So, and when we speak about like weight loss, also, like I'm sure you can share some, maybe also some examples from clients you were working with, but like usually when people engage in detox diets, since they are so restrictive and very low in protein, what will usually happen is that they decrease their basal metabolic rate, so the amount of calories that we need at rest, actually. So in the end of the day, that actually slows down our metabolism. Do you have any like experience from clients with that, with detox diet?
Lots, and you and I are seeing eye to eye on everything, which makes me very, obviously I already knew that, but yeah, I very rarely go into any project where I like to put someone. I've never put anyone on the detox diet. Let me start there. If there's any type of caloric restriction I have put them on, it might be something like an elimination diet, but that's to find out about food sensitivities. And exactly. In my opinion, it's got nothing to do with detoxing. But when I have to get someone to change their body composition for a role, I'm very rarely concerned with weight. Unless that role I'm getting them for is like they have to, even when a production company calls me and they say they want them at a specific weight, they don't know the weight that they want that individual at. They just want them to come in looking a specific way. So, you know, and I just recently had a woman who lost 8 pounds of fat, but put on 8 pounds of muscle through her DEXA scan. And I know those aren't 100% accurate, but they are good gauges. And she looked phenomenal. Now, if she was just to get on the scale and look at her progress, she would have said she wouldn't have progressed, because if you lose 8 pounds of fat and put on 8 pounds of muscle, you're going to be at the exact same weight. So body composition for me and detoxing for me is about getting someone to get their metabolism more flexible, making sure that protein is obviously always at a good level. And I think that's all contingent upon what the goals are, but allowing them to utilize carbs and fats as energy, but clean sources. So like you said earlier, not getting them through processed food, you know, getting them through things like, you know, maybe it's their wild fish, maybe it's a higher fatty fish, or maybe it's oils or nuts or seeds or whatever that might be. And I find that in time, with allowing them to consume that organic nutrition, and through training and through hydration and through rest and all these principles that I promote, in time, that body composition will automatically start changing. So it's not really the answer that most people want to hear, because it's not as sexy. They want to get on some type of a juice cleanse. But you know what? I've never seen anyone get on some type of a cleanse like that and then they're kind of off on this long-term process. They normally lose a significant amount of weight, which might be water weight. They might be starving their body of nutrients that they need, and then they're kind of rebounding and yo-yoing into where they were in the past.
Absolutely. That's also what I see with people that engage in detox diets. They do help to lose some weight in the beginning because they're very restrictive. But then in the long run, since they have this negative impact on metabolism, actually when a person reverts to eating more normally, then they can actually lead to a weight plateau, or in the worst case, even to weight gain, actually. Also because like a lot of times, like this kind of restrictive diet can actually increase appetite levels. So that's also another negative impact that it can have, which can then lead to overeating once you're finished with the detox diets. That's usually just for a very short amount of time going on. Yeah, and also like in terms like of mindset when it comes to detox diets, I mean, it's great if people engage in their health and wanting to do something for their health. But what it is really about is how you behave and act in the long term. So it's not going to make you healthy engaging in a detox diet for 2 weeks if the rest of the year you're not paying so much attention to your eating or lifestyle habits. I think that's also something really important to point out. And yeah, in the end of the day, like again, it comes down, like if you want to lose weight, increase energy levels, it comes down like to those basic principles of like eating a balanced, varied diet, focusing on a high intake of vegetables, and ideally reducing the intake of processed foods as much as possible. So and I think that's probably something that you've seen. You said it already, that you've seen with clients a lot.
Yeah, it's just, again, I want people to pay more attention to the principles that they need to do daily to get to their goal. So it's like any business plan, right? It's, you want to start at the finish. Where does that person want to be? I understand if someone wants to change body composition, that's great. But if I was to tell someone that they were going to gain 2 pounds, but have the body that they want, how many people would say yes? And a lot of clients would be like, no, I don't want to gain weight. I want to gain weight. But it's not about that. It's about being healthy. It's about, I feel waking up with optimal levels of energy, having a high level of rest and recovery. And you know what? Yes, looking better naked. We all want to look better naked. That's completely normal. But I think what starts happening is we start obsessing over this goal that we're putting in mind that we don't really even truly understand. And I hear it a lot with weight loss. I want to lose 20 pounds. I'm like, well, what if I told you we can get you the body that you want? And they're like, I want to lose 20 pounds. I'm like, you're just making that number up. If it's 10 pounds, it doesn't matter. But listen, absolutely. I've seen a high level of success. I had a woman, Laura Summers, she was 872 pounds. And yes, her goal 100% was to lose weight. And we got her down to, she was very sick, and I'm allowed to talk about this, but we got her down to about 360 pounds as of now. And yes, there is a goal there is a scale goal there, and we want to get her down to a healthy weight, but she didn't do that by obsessing over a number. She did that by just waking up every day over the last 6 years and paying attention to what does she have to do today? At first it was learning to walk, learning to increase her steps. Then it was like, okay, she can walk now. Let's try to get her to start moving properly. I hired her a trainer in Chicago, getting her to do basic movements that I was steering the ship on. Then it was getting her meal delivery service to where she could get the nutrition that she needed, and then hydration and all these things. And not in any specific order, but it was slowly allowing her to kind of accumulate this bucket of good habits. And then every day at that point, I was like, Laura, just wake up and put your foot on the gas. Well, what do I need to change? Nothing. Just wake up and put your foot on the gas and allow nature to take its course. And that's what I love about the Flex Score, because it actually forces you to be patient a little bit. On some people, it might happen in weeks, and some people, it might happen in months. But if you get there, you're going to turn around at some point and be like, oh my God, how did this happen? Like, I feel great. I look great. And my health and wellness is optimal, and I'm not craving. And then when you go and you want to have that holiday meal, you don't feel guilty.
Exactly. Absolutely. And that's totally like from a Lumen perspective, also what we are focusing on is like we're trying to promote healthy eating. And yeah, like through the engagement with Lumen, through focusing on a healthy metabolism. So yeah, definitely.
Ulrike, can I say one thing really quick? Sorry to interrupt.
Sure.
This woman, I want to shout out Maria Fox here. She's a Lumen
yeah,
user.
Maria Fox.
Amazing. But she just said her Flex Score was 8 at the beginning and now is 20. And my energy levels are amazing. I wanted to lose 50 pounds, but I lost 60. Maria, first off, congratulations. And secondly, this is what I'm talking about. You just went in there and she focused on those daily principles. And guess what? She overshot her barrier of where she thought she wanted to lose. Why are we going to set that barrier when who knows
exactly.
what we can end up doing? So fantastic, Maria. Big shout out to you.
Yeah, really, really. It's amazing where Maria has gotten with the help of Lumen. So it's definitely like a very impressive story. Great. Next thing, what I like to chat with you about is the myth that exercise will help you lose weight, actually. So when it comes to weight loss, like, of course, what we're hearing everywhere, if you want to lose weight, go ahead and exercise, and it will help you to lose weight. But yeah, if we look at it a little bit more differentiated, there's more to it actually than this. So first of all, like exercising itself will usually not increase the daily burned energies by a significant amount, unless you are an extreme athlete like Dawn. I'm sure you're actually having a very high energy expenditure due to the workouts you're doing. But if you're like a more like me, a normal person, and you're exercising on a regular basis, but like for moderate amounts of time, so the impact that the exercise has on your energy expenditure will likely be not very high. And what is much more significant is actually our basal metabolic rate, which is the amount of calories that our body just uses at rest, just by laying down. This is a very significant portion. And this is significantly impacted by the amount of lean body mass, or the amount of muscle mass that we are actually having. So yeah, it's actually hard to create a caloric deficit in your diet just through exercise, because it can take a very long time to burn off calories through exercise. Just like give you an example, like a regular sized like chocolate bar, if you engage in medium to higher intensity exercise, it can take, depends on who you are, like it can take between 30 minutes to 2 hours to burn this up. So you would have to engage in a lot of exercise in order to create an impact on your energy expenditure, on the calories burned actually. In addition to that, exercise, tell me about it, John, I'm sure you know it, exercise actually increases our appetite and hunger levels. So a lot of times, like we would overestimate maybe the calories that we burn to exercise, and then because we are more hungry, have more appetite, would eat more after that. Is that also something that you felt yourself, or felt with science?
Yeah. So listen, obviously exercise is very important thing in my life and my clients' life, and even your life. So but I believe there's the type of exercise matters. Now, I love doing cardiovascular training for heart health. I personally don't feel like that it is so imperative in fat loss. So for me, you mentioned something earlier, and you said lean body mass, right? Or lean muscle. And those words right there, I know freak out a significant amount of people out there, especially a lot of my female clients, because they don't want to get bigger, right? But if you speak to any of the names in Hollywood that most people know, whether it's Annie Hathaway or Emily Blunt or Blake Lively, I go on and on, these women believe, they agree with me, where putting on muscle, not to get bigger, but the example I gave earlier, removing fat, 8 pounds of fat, and putting on 8 pounds of muscle, you're still the same weight. Exactly. But our body's going to become more of that fat burning furnace. So I think the big issue is most people will say cardio. And yes, it's important. Yes, I want you to do that. But a lot of individuals will see that they plateau and they're just at this point of like, my body is not changing. And I truly believe, and there's a lot of scientific evidence to back it up, that to burn more fat calories at rest, you need to have more muscle on your body. I did not say get bigger. I did not say get bigger. I said more muscle on your body. And if we can continue to build muscle, which is going to burn more fat, we're going to become more of a, have more of a fat burning furnace. We're also putting body armor on our bodies. Exactly. And I know a perfect example was before my grandmother passed away, she had a terrible fall and she broke her hip. Now, my outlook would have been, if I could have worked with her years earlier, to put more body armor on her, because as we all get older, people get frail, we lose muscle mass. So let's prepare for that now. Let's prepare for that now.
100%. Yeah, and you pointed something great out there, like when it comes to weight loss, it's very important to retain or build muscle mass and burn the fat mass. And what this really exercise can help with very nicely, especially like this high intensity exercise resistance training can really help to increase our metabolism, to, as you would hear it sometimes, speed up our metabolism. That's essentially what it is: increase our basal metabolic rate, the amount of calories that our body utilizes at rest. So therefore, like, exercise is really, really great in terms of that. But like, if we just like look at the scale, that's something that you said earlier also, Don, like, you might not see a progress on the scale when you increase your amount of exercise, actually. So in that aspect, like, the weight is not always like the best progress marker. We should look at other alternative progress markers, such as like, how are my clothes actually fitting, or how is my waist circumference, which is a very good predictor of metabolic health, actually. If your waist circumference is in a good range, actually. So yeah, and definitely there are so many benefits of exercise, like, as we said already, it can help to increase lean body mass, and with that increase basal metabolic rate. But it also helps like with well-being overall, like the impact it can have on like our mind, reducing anxiety or signs of depression, even because it increases serotonin levels and dopamine. So these are all like really great aspects of exercise, or it helps with heart health, to maintain, to manage blood sugar levels. It's a really great way to do that. But in terms of actually losing weight, in a short term, it may not be the thing to do. But yeah, definitely what we also see in research is actually that people that are able to maintain a regular exercise routine are much more likely to maintain a healthy weight or keep the weight off that they have lost. So it is an important part in order for weight management. It's may just not be the only tool to get to a lower body weight. With that, of course, we have to combine diet and exercise with each other. Would you?
And I know, and I'm seeing a bunch of questions coming down the side, guys, and we're going to try and get some questions at the end.
Definitely, we have.
I don't want anyone to think that we're blowing them off, but you know, we had a few topics that Ulrike and I wanted to cover. And I'm trying to read and listen at the same time. So Ulrike, the question was?
No, I think we covered like this. Like you would like also from your experience agree. Like definitely, it's about combining diet and.
I also find that the exercise portion of this, it is putting our mind in the right spot, right? So if you're going to wake up on, and I find this on the weekends when people like to take off on Sundays. And then they're like, oh, you know, I'll binge eat. And I think it's because they're allowing themselves to relax a little bit. But if they were to go for a walk, or they were to start their day with, you know, some hydration and maintaining blood sugar levels, and maybe doing something active that's outside, that's very low intensity, you know, I think they'll find that their headspace is going to be in a good place, and they're going to make better decisions.
Absolutely.
This is actually a great transition to the next part of our conversation, which is actually, like, after all of this amazing information, we want to know how we can continue to stay on track, even with the holidays around the corner. So if you could share some of your tips, please, that would be awesome.
Love that.
That's a good topic. Don, maybe you can share with us, how have you managed the holidays? It was 100%. Just Thanksgiving, so how was that going for you?
Listen, I'm very loose with this topic, because I believe that the holidays come around and you want to have a nice time, be merry, have some food, get off your routine. I think you should. I don't think you should be, you know, suffocating yourself through a time of year where it's hopefully a lot of you are celebrating. So, you know, with the Thanksgiving holiday, for instance, I traveled, and, you know, I think for two or 3 days I just took off, and, you know, had a little bit of alcohol, and ate some food that I typically wouldn't eat. And, you know, I didn't beat myself up over it, and I didn't get depressed. Now, on the other hand, Monday came around, and I was back on a new workout program that I was ready to start. And I set my food up, and I still took my Lumen reading, by the way, when I was traveling, even though I wasn't following it. It's just something that's become such a habit in my life. But I feel like when Monday rolled around, it was one training session away from being back in the right mind space. And that's what I wanted to show people, is that between now and Christmas, we have about, 24 days for Christmas Eve. So, how many meals are we going to have in those 24, 25 days? And if you were eating only 3 times a day, I mean, you're looking at roughly 75 meals. So to think, out of those 75 meals, if you have a bad meal on Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, and New Year's Eve, if you have 3 bad meals, to think 3 bad meals is out of 75 is going to suddenly ruin your progress, is I think it's ridiculous. So I just want everyone to relax and say, listen, it's those other days where I want us to be focused and to stay on track. But if there's a party that comes around and it's something where you really want to let your hair down a little bit and have a little bit of fun, hydrate. Make sure you're eating a meal, a healthy meal, right before you go to that party. Drink some water in between cocktails and have a good time. And I always recommend not going overboard, because it's never a nice feeling the next day. But understand that the next day, get back on the plan. And don't look at it as, oh, I ruined everything. And now it sends you down this snowball effect of, oh my God, it's all over. Let me just junk out for the next few weeks and I'll start come the new year. That's what I don't want. I want you to look at that as, oh my God, I had a great time. It was something that was fun. It's time for me to get back on it.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with you. It's like, it's not the time of the holidays that people will gain weight. It's the time between the holidays, like all of the rest of the year, that will determine if someone is gaining weight or losing weight, depending on what on our diet or on our overall lifestyle choices. So yeah, I really also liked what you said regarding like having also here a bit more of a balanced approach there. So yeah, even if you go a little bit more overboard on some of the days, like you can balance it with other days. So in order to stay at your overall intake throughout the week. So that's definitely a great way also to look at it and not like beating yourself up for this. Yeah, overall, like also what I've seen with other people, like what was really helpful is to like apply mindful eating techniques also through this time. Like in particularly like eating your meals a bit more mindfully and more slowly, taking the time, because we have a little bit of more time. We don't necessarily need to rush to work the next day. We have a small vacation, like taking the time really to enjoy the food and to eat it more slowly, because that can then help us with connecting to our natural hunger and fullness cues more easily, and we can eat more in alignment with our physiological needs, basically. And that's, I think, an advice that I can just like give for the rest of the year also. But like maybe the holidays can be something like to start this process, also to become more aware, to take the time for it, to be mindful of these kind of things. Planning ahead can also be a great way. Like if you know, like this is something that throws you off the holiday season, to just like think a bit ahead of time. What meals do you have planned? What are you going to have for those meals? So for some people also it's helpful to keep a food log throughout those times, just to keep them a bit more accountable also. But definitely overall, I agree with you, Dawn, that it's not something that we need to beat ourselves up for if we do go a bit overboard, because what matters is really like, what do we do the rest of the year? Yeah, and also just like small things also, like I'm sure you have some great like tips also for people, like when they ate a little bit more, like something to keep to incorporate a bit more like exercise throughout this time, some small workouts maybe. Is there something like you recommend clients?
100%. Listen, but I always say, you're not going to out train a poor diet, but I think just to stay in a good in a good frame of mind, I believe that come December, and this is how I always structure my training for clients, is I almost back off the volume a little bit. I allow December to be a month where, maybe we do work a little bit more on that muscular endurance, more in that cardiorespiratory endurance, and maybe start incorporating things in like isometrics, some circuits, and we allow the joints in the body to take a little bit of a break, but we're getting in and out of the gym pretty quickly. Because listen, for a lot of people, it's a very for some of us, it's a great time of year, but for others, it's a very stressful time of year. You got to travel, whether you want to see or you don't want to see family, work schedules, all these things, maybe holiday parties, lack of sleep, shopping, money, all these things. It can become very stressful. And I don't believe that continuing to throw stress on top of stress is a good thing. So I think at the very least, if you were to turn around right now and everyone here was to choose 3 exercises, a lower body, some type of an upper push, and some type of an upper pull, really simple. And we were to do 10 minutes of circuits, and very basic, like 10 body weight squats, 10 dumbbell rows, 10 push-ups. And we were just to do 10, 10, and 10, and just do circuits of that for 10 minutes. You're gonna find that your heart rate elevates, your body's going to be moving and feeling a lot better. It's not going to be so intense. And you hop in a shower, you go off to work, you feel like $1,000,000, maybe throwing it in at 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon when you've been sitting at your desk for several hours. You're going to find, and yes, you won't be able to do dumbbell rows at work, but maybe doing something like a prone cobra or a body weight movement, just something for even 5 minutes. I think you're going to find it's like throwing wood on that fire. It's allowing our joints to stay flossed. It's allowing our metabolism to be picked up. It's allowing us to break a little bit of a sweat, which yes, sweating is a good way to detox if you want to use that word. Yeah, I just think moving is so important this time of year, where a lot of us, we start jumping into that holiday cheer a little bit too much. We start eliminating movement. And I have a problem with doing all that other stuff, doing all that holiday fun stuff, if we start feeling terrible every day. And the idea right now is let's allow you to feel great day in and day out.
Exactly, absolutely. And even if it is a bit more stressful time, also moving can help also with reducing this stress, because we know exercise is a great stress reliever also. And even if it's just small things, maybe getting up from the table after eating and taking the whole family for a walk. It could be a really nice family activity to do, get away from the food and just move a little bit, even if it's not an exercise, it's just walking a bit, but that's also a great thing to do, just to keep moving throughout this time also. Great. I think we are ready for questions, right?
Yes. Yeah, I know a lot of people are saying, I'm seeing not Lumen specific guys. I think the idea of Ulrike and I today was to come in and to cover some general topics, and I would be more than happy to come back on with you, Ulrike, and dive into more Lumen specific questions. We can have a lot of fun.
Absolutely, that's a great idea. We can have another webinar where we just have a Lumen focus there.
Lumen only, yeah, exactly, 100%. and we're happy to do that. But right now, this is kind of our introduction, right? And we're trying to just cover the general topics.
Absolutely.
Definitely. And this has been so interesting to hear already. And we've been getting so many questions. So I've been collecting them from the chat here and also from users beforehand. Before we continue into the Q&A, and in case you want to send in more questions, just wanted to share a few things. So the first thing is Lumen will be kicking off the new year with New Year, New Metabolism, which will be a week-long challenge to kickstart your metabolism. This will include nutritional boosting tips from Ulrike and workouts from Dawn. So keep an eye out. There will be more information about that soon. Also, something else, as a thank you for joining this webinar and a special bonus, we're offering 15% off of Lumen using the promo code MYTHSBUSTED. So this code is only active for today. So you can use it. We actually still have our Cyber Week sale going. So it's $40 off plus this 15%. You can also use it if you want to share the gift of health with a friend or family with the Lumen gift cards. And then also Don had told us that he had a special promo code for you as well. So if you'd like to share a little bit more, Don.
I would. I don't have the code though. We were just thanks for throwing me on the spot. But we will, you know what, I will offer to the Lumen community. I know my specific promo code was, I think it was Don 40, was it? But we were coming up with a different code.
So for the challenge.
That was for the challenge. Yeah, I'll get that code over. What I'll send it to you guys, and we'll post it. You guys can go to donsaladino.com to find more information about what I do. But thanks for putting me on the spot there.
Sorry.
I love you, Jackie. I'm only kidding. You're the absolute best. I love you.
Amazing. So now we can move to some of these questions that we've been getting. So the first one is from Joanne. She's asking, what is the best thing each of you have learned since you started using Lumen? So
I got to jump into this first. If you don't mind.
Go ahead.
I always trusted fat. I always incorporated what I thought was a lot of fat in my diet, but I increased it significantly. And because of that, it was an interesting time, because when I shot the cover of Muscle and Fitness, this was months ago. It was so long ago. And I dove in the Lumen right after. So there's always this reverse dieting approach that I have to take. You diet for a shoot, my fats are still significantly high, so I always feel good. But coming out of that, because I'm so much leaner, there's this period of like, I might be craving some food here and there, or you start incorporating foods in, and maybe you start losing that leanness. And what I found was I did my reverse dieting approach using Lumen. So it started getting me into consuming such a high level of fats, and I just wasn't craving any bad food. I mean, if my eating's on with Lumen, I never have cravings. It's just like my blood sugar levels maintained, my energy levels high, and every day it's just like I haven't even had any caffeine today. Look at me, I'm like that. So it's for me, it's a way that I like living. So I think it was really trusting the process of fat and understanding that if it's the right fats, we can consume a lot more.
Interesting. Yeah, for me, it was actually quite similar. Naturally, I'm a person that, coming from Germany, eating a lot of bread there, that generally incorporates a bit more carbohydrates, incorporate a bit more carbohydrates in my diet. So really Lumen also opened for me a little bit by taking those measurements and actually see what is the impact of my diet on my metabolism, on my metabolic measurements, to see really that how good it can feel to focus a bit more on those healthy fats in our diet, and that it has a really good impact on our metabolism, but also on our well-being overall. And if we really focus on those healthy fats, we see that it's actually not a lot of foods that we can eat that are very high in fat. So it's a limited choice there, but those foods are definitely really, really good for us.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing. This next question is from Jason. I think it's related to the first myth about fat and whether it makes you gain fat. So he's asking, what about carbs? Are carbs bad too?
That's a good one. I take that. So yeah, definitely when it comes to carbs, similar as when it comes to fat, it depends so much on the quality of carbohydrates we are incorporating into our diet. So there can be a lot carbs have a little bit of a bad reputation these days, because a lot of carbohydrate rich foods are not healthy foods. They are processed foods. They have a high content of sugar. But on the other hand, on the other side of the range, we have a lot of healthy carbohydrate rich foods also. These are in particularly legumes, beans, chickpeas, lentils, or anything that is whole grain based. So these foods are actually very high in fiber. Fiber has many, many health benefits for us, and they provide a good amount of minerals and vitamins. So also here, it's really focusing on the right amount of, on the right kind of carbohydrate rich foods, and finding there also the balance for yourself, which Lumen, for instance, is something that can help with personalizing the carbohydrate amount that works best for you based on your metabolic measurement results. So they're not per se bad, but it depends on what we choose there.
Great. So the next question is from Nancy. She's asking, what are your thoughts on using Lumen along with fasting intermittently?
Ooh. Do you want to, I mean, I'll give you my opinion first, and then I'd like to hear
Go for it.
Ulrike's 100%. Like, I'm okay. Like, I think there's a lot of benefit to fasting. I just feel like fasting becomes a very negative thing when we're using this as a way to rebound from poor nutrition in general. And if we start, under eating because we're fasting, then that's not good also. So Lumen's going to make your recommendation on protein, fats, and carbs. And most people are like, well, it's not telling me how many calories. I'm like, well, it is, because we know that there are 9 calories per gram of fat, 4 calories per gram of protein and carbohydrates. So if you add up those micronutrients, macronutrients, we're going to see around that caloric range that we need to consume our foods in. So I'm okay with fasting. I just feel like that you're going to have less of a window throughout the day to be able to consume those macronutrients that you need to hit your number. That's my opinion, and I'm completely prepared for you, Ulrike, to disagree with me, but I like putting myself under on the hot seat sometimes.
No, definitely. You're right. Like fasting can be a great strategy to improve metabolic flexibility, and that's also something that Lumen promotes as a way to increase metabolic flexibility to become more fat adaptive. Because when we fast for a longer period of time, usually like we deplete our carb stores in our body, and our body will eventually switch to a state of fat burn. However, at Lumen, we don't recommend generally to fast for longer than 16 hours, because it usually doesn't take that much time to enter a state of fat burn, and fasting for too long for some people can actually create a physiological stress response, can increase cortisol levels, the stress hormone in the end of the day, that is not that beneficial to health also. So also here, I think it's important to find a balanced approach, to not overdo it. And yeah, in terms of weight loss, what we also know from research is that intermittent fasting can help to reduce our overall caloric intake throughout the day, because we are limiting our eating window basically. So we don't have so many hours throughout the day that we can eat. So that can help actually to lower our overall caloric intake, which then can help with weight loss also. But yeah, definitely I would also point out here that it is something that I wouldn't recommend to over engage in, and not always more is better, especially when it comes to fasting. And that especially is the case for females also, especially for females in reproductive age, because it can increase stress levels. So, and that can have a bit of a negative outcome there, worst times.
Amazing. The next question is one that we got a few times, but I'm taking it from Steven. It says, can I get some advice about my absolute favorite carbohydrate, alcohol? Especially with the holiday season, this is very fitting.
So in general, like we have to differentiate a bit, like alcohol itself, if we look at it like from a molecular level, it's not a carbohydrate. Alcohol is, let's say, another nutrient, which is not necessarily something we need, or we don't need it. And alcohol itself provides our body with like quite a bit of energy. So 1 gram of alcohol has, for instance, 7 calories versus a gram of carbs has 4 calories. So for that reason, like decreasing our alcohol intake can help to lower our overall caloric intake also. But yeah, good examples of lower carbohydrate options are actually hard liquors like vodka with some sparkling water, for instance, because that's actually low in carbohydrates. But also like what I can recommend really is like a wine, and adding a little bit of sparkling water there to make it a bit more refreshing also, is relatively low in alcohol and low in carbohydrates also. What's your favorite drink, Don?
I'm not, I mean, I don't drink much. So when I go and decide to drink, I'll drink pretty much anything I'm in the mood for. So if it was something that was, yeah, but seriously, if it was something that was more about like a part of my life, yeah, I would probably think differently on it. But then I would be really concerned with what it's doing to my sleep quality. right?
Yeah.
And then in time, if my sleep quality really starts becoming effective, is that affecting my body hormonally? I mean, that's something that I think is a nice topic. But when I was away in last week and I decided to have a couple drinks, I enjoy beer. Some people look at me and say, well, it's not gluten-free. I'm like, yeah, but I'm okay with it. And having just a couple, as long as I don't overstay my welcome, I'm fine. I also find that drinking something a little bit heavier like that allows me to drink a little bit more slowly, and it doesn't hit me as hard. Where if I am drinking a tequila or a vodka, which is less gluten and it's clear, I find that I can have a lot less and get affected a lot more with it. So I think there's just different ways to look at it.
Absolutely.
So I think we just have time for one last question. There have been
Sure.
so many questions coming in. So the last question is, what advice can you give people who struggle to hit fat burn? And this came from Karen.
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say that is a very common question we get at Lumen here also. Yeah, so especially in the beginning, because usually our Western diet is quite high in carbohydrates. So engaging in a lower carbohydrate approach can help to switch our body towards burning fat for fuel more easily. And then it's what we mentioned here also already. Intermittent fasting can help to increase our overnight fast a little bit by pushing back the dinner by an hour earlier. So we have a longer overnight fast. And then the third strategy that Don is the expert with is exercise. Exercise can help us to reach a state of fat burn much more quickly and easily, basically.
Yeah, I also think when you make these changes or you're implementing specific things, give it some time. I'm never a believer that, if you do something once, it's the result of that one change. There's so many things in our life when it comes to behavioral change that could be affected. Maybe you got a better night's sleep. Maybe your training was different the day before. Maybe your stress was different the day before. Maybe you're really low carbs 2 days before, which is affecting your body now. It takes time for us to be able to truly understand. And that's why when I first started working with Lumen, Jackie will be the first to tell you, I probably put 4 or 5 months, might have been longer, into just using it and to just asking questions. And I was driving Ulrike crazy because I was probably doing, Zoom calls with her every week to just really understand. But I found that as I used it more, it understood my body more and I understood it more. And now it's to the point where, I very rarely wake up. I can't tell you the last time I've woken up worse than a 2, even when I was away for those few days and I was enjoying, I felt like my body was still running and burning efficiently.
Amazing.
Awesome. Let's do this again.
Yeah, it was fun. Thanks, Don.
Thank you so much for joining.
And
we'd like to thank you to everyone who joined to watch, and also to Don and Ulrike for leading this amazing webinar. And we're excited to do more of these. We'll be sending out an email afterwards with Don's promo code, the Lumen code as well, just as a reminder. And for all the questions that we couldn't make it to, please feel free to contact us at support@lumen.me. And Ulrike and some of our other experts will be able to answer those questions.
Great. Thanks,
guys.
Thank you so much.
Have a great holiday, everyone.
You too.
You too.